All right, welcome to another episode of the Spurs Takeover. This is going to be a special Tony Parker jersey retirement edition. And as you can see, I have the graphic here and it says, Merci, Tony. So, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and introduce some of our other friends here that are joining us. We are going to be joined by Ben Bornstein of Project Spurs, and also we're going to be joined by a good friend, Wesley Perkins. Welcome, gentlemen. Thank you for staying up late and doing this after show with me. That was quite a jersey retirement ceremony. It took some time to get through it. I think they started a little late, but nonetheless, we all made it through it.
There were a lot of words said by a lot of people.
It's a good thing they stopped Sean early on, or it would still be going on.
I think they need to have like a cutoff or something for the peeps, man, because it's cold as hell for one here in San Antonio. And I mean, this game started at 6:30, and this jersey retirement deal, I mean, it wasn't done till what, like maybe a few minutes ago, like 10:20, something like that. Like, wow, you were in it for the long haul, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm on East Coast time, man. I'm almost at midnight already.
Oh man. So you might be already you might be able to already see The Mandalorian. I'm staying up late because I want to see if Disney Plus is going to go live already. I already signed
At midnight?
up. I'm at midnight, bro. So I'm staying up late. I'm going to watch me The Mandalorian but let's talk about
Well, I got to tell you, there's friends of mine that are wondering if there's going to be ice days for school tomorrow because, of course, being a teacher, they're all praying, going, okay, come on, Disney, let's go. I'm just thinking, yeah, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Just saying.
Wouldn't be the
That'd be
worst
awesome.
thing in the world, but we all know what happens here in San Antonio, man. You get a little bit of snow, nobody knows how to drive, or you get a little ice on the road, and you got to shut the whole damn thing down. So hopefully, weather holds and everybody can get to work and school tomorrow morning. There's no big issues. But the big issue that we did have are the San Antonio Spurs. We're 10 games into this season. Spurs dropped one at home against the Memphis Grizzlies by a final score of 113 to 109. The team looks awful. Let's just, let's not mix words and let's just say what needs to be said. This team is laden in mediocrity right now. This early into the season, they look awful, and and it's not just me that notices that. As a Spurs fan, it's everybody else that's noticing the same thing as well. You can see that there are lapses on the defensive end, which really cost them the game down the stretch when they had opportunities to get themselves the lead, but they failed to hold the Memphis Grizzlies. And we're talking about the Grizzlies, man. The Grizzlies, they were a dismal 2-7. They come in here and basically beat the Spurs on their home floor. And this is the dangerous thing that we have to address. And we're going to start with you, Ben. Not only are the Spurs losing games on the road, now they're losing games here on their home floor. I mean, what do you have to say about that?
It's bad not only because losing games at home is bad in general and you should avoid doing that at all costs, but this was a Memphis team that had not won a road game all season. They had not won a road game yet, and this was their first road win. That should not have been the case. This is not a very good team. This is a team that is clearly tanking. They're tanking for at least another year. They have very young players that they're playing a ton of minutes because they want this core to grow together, like Jaren Jackson, John Morant, Dylan Brooks, and a little bit of Jonas Valanciunas. Those are guys they all want coming up together and forming the core of their team when they do become good and start making playoffs regularly. So and it's funny because I thought the Spurs actually did a really good job on John Morant. They made him they basically muted him tonight. I mean, I think he had like 9 points, but he was 2 of 13. I mean, he got nothing easy tonight. I thought the defense on him was great, but really outside of that, I mean, there were times in this game where I'm watching and I'm yelling at my screen, why aren't you grabbing a rebound? There are 5 of you staring at a defensive rebound. Go grab it. Who cares who grabs it? Just one of you grab it. It's little things like that drive me nuts. And if they had grabbed a defensive rebound at the end of the game, they probably win that game. They gave Memphis way too many second chance opportunities those last 2 or 3 minutes when you felt like, oh, okay, the Spurs are on their run. This is when they close the game. This is when they're going to execute. This is when they're going to end the Grizzlies essentially, and then they don't because one, I thought Jaren Jackson was getting away with a lot of pushing on Jakob Poeltl tonight. That was not called on rebound. There was honestly a lot of that, and it wasn't fair. One, it wasn't fair to Poeltl, but also I thought putting LaMarcus Aldridge in at the end of the game, and then you're not even using him as a decoy. You're not using him to shoot. You might as well have had Poeltl in there to rebound the ball for you. I don't know. He only played. I'm looking at it. He only played 15 minutes tonight.
Yep, 15 minutes, 4 points.
To me, that's insane for a team that needs defense. And that's a guy who can. He may not be able to switch fully on those screens up top, but he can at least hold a guy or hold the ball handler for a second or two for his guard to recover. He's the only big on this team who can do that. Maybe Trey Lyles a little bit, but Poeltl is the best at that. And I thought they needed a lot more of that tonight, and he only plays 15 minutes. So I thought that was a big reason why the Spurs lost. Also not – and I won't even say it's not hitting shots. I mean, they shot 47%. That's pretty good. But the problem is the Grizzlies shot almost 51%.
Yeah.
And they got a ton of easy looks in the paint.
Yeah, the Spurs.
And a lot of that was
Spurs
Jaren
interior,
Jackson and Valanciunas.
Yeah, Spurs interior defense. There's a lack of that. You know, people can just go and run on them all day and just be aggressive. Go to the rim, get easy layups, get 1 to 3 foot jump shots, finger rolls, teardrops. Banking the ball off the glass. Whatever they want to do, teams are able to score on the Spurs at will because of the lack of defense. And I'd like to go ahead and
absolutely.
I'd like to go ahead and say welcome to Steven Anderson. Steven Anderson is joining us. Mr. Anderson, how's it going?
Yeah. Mr. Anderson.
Yes. Welcome. It's good to be back, guys. Sorry, a little bit late. I had to take out the dog. You know how that goes. So
the old take out the dog excuse.
The dog ate my stat sheet.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Thoughts on tonight's game, Steven?
Yeah, I mean, not the best. I mean, I was coming into it thinking, okay, well, maybe it's Memphis. On paper, it should have been a win. I mean, I'm sure I was listening to what you guys were saying when I was waiting to come in here, but I mean, it should have been a win, and it wasn't. And I mean, what's more concerning to me is the Saturday against Boston, tonight against Memphis. Teams are just going in the paint at will. You saw Boston go in the paint at will. I mean, they got whatever they wanted. I think it was DeMar DeRozan or Derek White that said that on Saturday. Today was the same exact scenario. And Ben, you're right. Jakob Poeltl not being in there was a massive reason why that keeps happening. And I'm not advocating for starting him next to LaMarcus, but if you remember last season, those two were the starters. LaMarcus and Jakob are the starters. It was very difficult for teams to get in the paint. They would have to set up for outside shots whenever those two were in. They protect the paint together. I know that the NBA is going away from the traditional two big men lineup to start, and I get it. I mean, it's a scoring league. You want to score, and Trey Lyles is providing that scoring now. He's gotten used to the system now. But I think that's where we're giving up a little bit of leverage there, where you're having Jakob sit, and he's very good with the second unit. Don't get me wrong, but to have him not in there protecting the paint when you see guys going in there at will, and it's going to keep happening as the teams get tougher. I mean, you got Minnesota coming up. It's probably going to happen again if we don't make a change in there. On the other side of it, you had. I'm not going to say LaMarcus had a bad game because he didn't. He had played a lot better than he did Saturday. Let's just be real about that. But I expect him to be a little bit more dominant than he was, particularly in that third quarter when the Spurs were making that run to come back. I expect him to be a little bit more dominant than he was. Rudy Gay had a great game. I finally woke up a little bit. Rudy Gay had a great game. Brandon Forbes had a great game. Derek White had some good moments. I mean, they just couldn't get it together, guys. And I think that's a situation that, and Joe, you said it last time I was on, it's a matter of this team is young, and this is exactly what we're going to get from them for right now. But it's going to come to a point where, okay, we're 10, 20, 30 games in the season, how much longer are we going to say this is young and this is who they are, as to where, okay, we need to fix some things, we got to fix it soon. So I mean, it's getting a little bit worrisome for me right now, and I know it's only 10 games
10
in, but it's a
games,
little
yeah.
worrisome. It's starting to become a trend.
Yeah, so Wesley, let's go ahead and hear from you. Thoughts on tonight's game, sir?
Okay, well, I'm going to be professional about this, but I'm going to rant a little bit, guys. Because here's the thing.
All right, let
Yes.
me get my popcorn. Let me get my popcorn.
Yeah, get your popcorn ready. All right, here we go. This is not a young team anymore. Okay, I don't buy that logic anymore. I don't buy that they need time to gel. This is a team that played together, guys, all of last year. The only person that's different in that lineup, there's two people. It's, obviously Murray, who's come back, and it's obviously Trey Lyles. Otherwise, this is the same team that they had a year ago. And if we say, hey, they need more time, they need more of this, everything that's going on in that court is lack of focus, lack of effort, lack of fundamentals, lack of trust. Everything that you see on that court right now that's happening or not happening is because of that. Anytime we see this team struggle, it's because one person will take it upon themselves to try to bring the team back. And this team doesn't have stars. I couldn't help but think of it, not because of the Deuce. I don't care about him. But if you think back to what the Clippers were last year, without him, without Paul George, or anybody else, the threat of a big name, think about the Clippers for a second. This is a team of no names for the most part that were just out there working their butts off to try to make a team atmosphere, to make something really special. And you knew at some point they were going to run into bigger and better talent. And that was okay, because you knew that they had a very collective team that knew how to defend, that knew how to run an offense. I'm telling you right now, I keep saying this over and over, but this is really the thing that boggles my mind. The most consistent thing that the San Antonio Spurs do right now is turn the ball over. That is literally the most impressive thing about them, is that probably about every third possession, they're going to give the ball away. And it really comes down to, it's not necessarily a lack of floor leadership, because I think Murray is that leader. And again, I do think when he does get more extended minutes, we're going to see a better floor game from everybody, just because he's going to put people in better spots. But at the same token, I look at guys like Aldridge, I look at DeRozan, and I say, look, this is supposed to be our guys. These are supposed to be the people that dominate the floor when those younger guys kind of are having trouble finding their way. These are supposed to be the steadying force. And could we not see that any more than watching that Tony Parker ceremony? And we're sitting there going around and thinking back to all of the things that each of those players meant, whether it was Boris Diaw and his steadying force and his passing ability, whether it was Bruce Bowen and the fact that he couldn't hit water if he jumped out of a boat when he first came to the Spurs. And then he created a really good corner three shot for himself. You talk about David Robinson, and he even alluded to it, the fact that, he was such a dominant player in his time, but as he got older, he adapted. He adapted his game to help and to be a good leader and mentor to Tim Duncan and to those younger players. Manu coming in and not really sure with his wild style what he was going to portray, and Tony himself. You're talking about all these people that were collectively a group of guys that couldn't be more different. And yet here they were, they became something better because they didn't ever look at things from an individual perspective. And I think when we look at the Spurs, as I get off my soapbox, when we look at this Spurs team right now, we have a collection of individuals. We don't have a collection of teammates. And I'm just really baffled, especially at the stars, that just seem to get in the way of the younger members, especially the Bryn Forbes of the world, of DeJounte, of Derek White, of Pirtle. Just, when those guys are off the floor, when DeRozan and Aldridge are off the floor, the Spurs play better. I'm not saying they need to go. I'm just saying that right now, those guys are a real cause for why this team is losing.
Okay, well, this is what my rebuttal is to all that. And basically what it boils down to is heart. This team plays with no heart. In the past, we had Spurs teams who played with heart because we had the big three. We had Tony, or we had, Manu, we had, Tim Duncan out there on the court. Now that the big three is gone, the big three era is gone, we have players like LaMarcus Aldridge, which he upsets a lot of Spurs fans, and I can see why, because he's one of these players who has to be coddled. He has to have his touches to get going. You have to do so many things to ensure that you can get this one player going, that it kind of takes the I guess the momentum away from everybody else, because you're so fixated on getting your starter going, LMA going all the time, that you just at a certain point you just get tired of it. And I think that's where Spurs fans are at right now. You shouldn't need to do all these things to get yourself going. You're professional. You need to go out there and do whatever it takes to score, to get yourself in the game and perform at a high level. And unfortunately with LMA, he is who he is. He's never going to change. You're the person that you're seeing out there from day in to night out or whatever. It's the same person you're going to see in big game situations. He all but disappears. So at that point, he's a liability. I think the Spurs are at a crossroads where they're going to have to decide if they're going to wind up keeping DeRozan or they're going to keep LMA. At this juncture, I would say let LMA go back home to Portland. Yep. I mean, and DeRozan, he's getting up there in age as well, so you have a dilemma. You have to do something sooner or later, but right now we have to focus on the here and now. And the here and now is telling us that this Spurs team is laden in mediocrity. And unfortunately for the Spurs fans, after seeing that, Tony Parker retirement ceremony and seeing the big three in action, we all got very spoiled in seeing that greatness out there on the court time and time again, that we took it for granted. Now we're seeing what happens when you don't have greatness on the court anymore, and we're in a rebuilding stage, I think, where we still need some players to come up and really start, getting, coming into their own. And right now we're seeing that kind of happen with some of these younger players and DeJounte and Derek White, but you still have players who aren't even given a chance to come in and perform. We have yet to see DeMarre Carroll get quality minutes consistently because they put trash-ass Marco Beninelli, who's a defensive liability, out there on the damn court,
Preach it, Joe.
Joe said it, not me.
Preach
Joe said it, not me.
They need to get his ass out of there. Sit him down. Let him have a freaking, I don't know, pizza or something, man. Just sit there, bro. It's good, man. You're good. Let somebody else go out there and get those minutes and play defense, because this guy's not interested in playing defense. He's interested in that off-balance three, that off-balance shot, which he's perfected so much. And the other thing is that we have undersized guards. We want to know why we stink so bad on the defensive end. Maybe it's because we have some undersized guards that are good shooters and they're good at putting up points, but they're horrible at defense, and it's showing. And that's what Spurs fans are seeing right now. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to blame people. It has to do more with this is what you have. And Coach Pops needs to go out there and say, I need to put the best possible product out there that gives us the best chance of winning. And we have yet to see that. So let's go ahead and hear from Ben. Ben, we haven't heard from you in a while. How are you feeling about your boy, LaMarcus?
I will circle around to him, but you bring up a good point in that I don't know if it's just me who feels this way, but it feels to me like this coaching staff or Popovich, they have everybody set in the amount of minutes they want to play them, and they don't mix they don't mix their rotations.
Yeah.
They don't try DeJounte Murray with Derek White. They don't to give you like an all defensive front court or anything like that, or a back court rather. They don't mix LaMarcus Aldridge and Pirtle, which I think is ridiculous because Trey Lyles isn't enough to make up for LaMarcus Aldridge on the defensive end. Trey Lyles had some nice moments defensively tonight. He had a block on Jaren Jackson. It was great. It was awesome. But that's not going to be enough going down the road. He can't have 2 or 3 nice moments, and that's going to make up for what Aldridge does or doesn't do on the defensive end. And like you said, you may not name names, but I'll name names for you. I'll help you out here.
Oh, no.
Yeah,
here we go.
Look, listen, it's not a secret. Patty Mills is an undersized guard. He is a glorified 2 who is barely big enough to play the 1. He is 6 feet tall. I'm not going to take away anything. He tries hard, okay? There's no doubt about that. He shoots the ball incredibly well. You want him on the court when you need a shot. No doubt in my mind, okay? and the way he played at FIBA over the summer, I have even more confidence in him. But that is an undersized guard who's going to have a difficult time guarding the perimeter.
Yep.
And there were also times tonight where you had really bad switches. Patty Mills ended up on Jaren Jackson once or twice, and that's just inexcusable.
Yeah. He's going to shoot right over him.
Among other things.
Yeah.
But you just can't have switches like that. And like you said, some of this is putting in the effort to play defense the way it's supposed to be played. Some of it is being smart enough to play defense the way it's played. I think it's a mix of both of those things, not enough of those things happening, where there were times guys got wide open for three because he got lost on a switch, or a defensive player knew there was a switch and he just didn't go out to guard it, or he kind of walked out there with barely his hand out. And it's like, you have to go up and you have to contest the shot. You're not going to block the shot. I know that, but you have to get in the guy's space, and you have to at least make him somewhat uncomfortable when he shoots the ball. And I did not see enough of that tonight, especially in the paint, where we have discussed before that is a huge problem.
Yeah.
So I think, and Mark, like you already said, Marco Bellinelli refuses to play defense. I mean, he had a steal or two tonight, and I think a lot of that was because of the effort of other people, and the ball happened to bounce into his hands. There was one play he read a pass really well and took it, and I think it actually got taken away from him because they called a garbage foul on DeMar DeRozan on a big, which that big had no chance of making a play because there was a deflection anyway. But I just feel like I thought there was going to be a lot of lineup versatility with this group, and we're not seeing it. And I think that's a huge problem.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say at this point, 10 games into the season, all of us are disappointed in the effort, that we see going out there on the court. And right now, the only thing I can define it as is, I want to go ahead and go with Steven right now. It's the ganas, the want to, like we say in Spanish. The want to, the effort, the heart. Where is all that? It's the Spurs are going through the garner any, and unfortunately, it's going to be to start the season, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. Let's hopefully, they can rectify that and get some wins. But Steven, we're going to go ahead and let you start winding us down here. So, and closing, what do you think needs to happen for them to get back on the winning track?
Send Marco Bellinelli back to Italy. I mean, there's a bunch of things that need to happen. But right now, I'll tell you, Joe, and guys, Ben, I agree with everything you're saying, basically, and Joe, you too, and all of y'all had great points. And Wesley, Ben, I'll start with you, which was, you're right in the sense that a lot of undersized guards, you have a lot of just not. I'm not going to say Pop is stubborn, but he is. But is he set in his ways? I'm not going to say that. I mean, we've all watched Pop coach for 20-something years. I mean, we know his system. We know how he is by now. People on Twitter clamoring for Lonnie Walker to play, clamoring for Chimezie Metu to play.
Damari Carroll?
Damari Carroll. Okay. I might touch on him in 1 second, but mainly those two. Because this is true. Chimezie Metu had a better game than LaMarcus Aldridge did on Saturday, and he played 5 minutes. I mean, that is fact.
It was a better effort.
Right, it's true. I mean, better stats, better effort, better everything than LaMarcus Aldridge, and that's just facts. But as far as DeMar Carroll goes, we're going to go back real quick. No, you're not going to see those two guys playing unless we have major injuries. That's the only way you're going to see those two guys ever hit the court. But as far as DeMar Carroll goes, guys, this is what surprised me today. DeMar Carroll had a damn good game in the minutes he was allowed on Saturday. He had hit threes. He defended well. He actually I think he had a block or two on Saturday. He had a very good game in the minutes he had. And I tweeted out, I was like, DeMar is going to get more minutes now going forward. Well, Monday rolls around and goose egg, 0 minutes. So you're right, Ben. I'm wondering, is this the rotation we're going to see the rest of the season? Because if it is, you're right, Joe, it's going to be a losing streak because they have Minnesota, they have Dallas, they have Portland. The way they're playing right now, I see them losing all 3 of those games and maybe badly losing them if they don't fix something quickly.
If they're having this much trouble against, lower teams, I mean, come on,
Yeah. Yeah. So how can they improve? I mean, they have to have a better effort. LaMarcus Aldridge needs to give a better effort from the get-go. He can't settle for a freaking jump shot and he's open and he clanks it. DeMar DeRozan needs to be aggressive from the get-go. He can't settle for his love of mid-range. It's great that he hit him, but he needs to be aggressive and driving to the basket. DeJounte Murray needs to drive to the basket. And, of course, what happens when you drive, as you said, guys? They're going to pack the paint. You pass it out to the wings for an open shot like it used to happen back in the day. So that's what needs to happen moving forward. They need to get the rotations going in a better system. I mean, a lot of things need to be moving. Not just one answer to what needs to happen, but a lot of things need to happen over the next week and a half in order to get things going. I don't know that it will.
Yeah, it's going to take some time. Wesley, I'm going to go ahead and go to you. I'm going to pitch to you. But one of the things that I have observed is the lack of movement to the Spurs offense. I think that's a problem. Early in games, it gets them in trouble because they can't get anything going. They can't get in any rhythm. Everybody's standing around, just looking at each other. They're waiting for other people to be the aggressors. And that's not going to win you games. You got to get yourself into the game. You got to start going to the rim. If your shot isn't falling early, your jumper's not falling, find other ways to win. So go ahead and start winding us down as well with your final thoughts on what is woeing the Spurs at the moment.
Well, Joe, when you and I were doing some React stuff last year, we heard so many people talk about it's time for Pop to go, and you and I both said the same thing. It's so ridiculous, right? It's so ridiculous. And I'm not to that extent with this coaching staff, but I'm telling you this right now. The biggest adjustment that has to happen is this coaching staff has got to stop looking at this game as if they can play still two bigs and they can somehow change the league. Pop was always one of those guys that could go against the grain, still adapt to your style, and still beat you at your style. Think about the Phoenix Suns of old with Steve Nash and Amari, and how at times they would just make the Spurs look bad. They would just make them, you'd go see that thunderous dunk coming down the lane from Amari Stoudemire and just think, oh man, that's going to just defeat the Spurs every time. But Pop always had an answer. He always had something that was better. And so I do trust that he's going to find solutions. I do. I really do, because the man has been through battles upon battles upon battles. But I will say this, the time to coddle LaMarcus Aldridge has got to end.
Yeah, that's over, man.
That to me is, when you look at what's wrong with this team right now, a reporter, and I don't even remember which one it was, asked Pop at the end of the game after the Boston game if they expected more out of LMA, and Pop didn't give him the look of like, oh, that was a dumb question, or he didn't respond to him in the typical Pop, and here at this point in time, this Spurs team needs a little bit of a message. And if that message is, I'm sorry, you're not playing well enough, sit your butt down. I'm going to play Pirtle for extended minutes. I'm going to bring Metu in because he's going to bring energy. Then so be it. Bring in who you need to in order to set a precedent. If you're going to lose a game, you might as well go with the people that are going to bring you energy at this point. And I think that if that message is received, you would see a different set of stars and a little different effort going forward. But until that happens, unfortunately, guys, I don't know. I just think that there's too much of the let's go back to playing the way that we are comfortable in that comfortable way right now in this NBA. And this is the scary thought. Think about how many duos there are out there right now that still haven't gotten a lot of time together, that are still brand new to each other, that are really going to set this league on fire soon enough. In the latter parts of this year, the Spurs won't compete against that if they keep this trend up. That's just the way it goes. So, again, it's got to start with coaching.
Yeah, all right. So, Ben here, go ahead and start closing us out, Ben. Gave everybody an opportunity. I'm going to give you one, too. What do you think the Spurs are going to have to do to actually have a chance of making the playoffs? Because currently constructed in the way that they're putting forth the effort, it's not looking good. Something's got to change, and what do you think that needs to be?
It may require a trade. It's 10 games into the season. I think it's still early for trade talk, but the other problem is it is going to be very hard to move either Aldridge or DeRozan, because one, DeRozan is making $27 million this year, and if he opts into his contract next year, it's about the same. And so you're basically trying to convince someone to take a shooting guard shoot three. That is hard to sell. Okay. And then you have LaMarcus Aldridge, who is definitely past his prime. He is on the wrong side of 30 and close to 35. And his game is not getting more athletic. His game is slowing down. He already really wasn't a defensive big, and he's becoming less of one in recent years. So if you are going to trade, the Spurs are going to have to get really creative. And whatever they do, I just hope they don't give away draft picks, because they're going to need those to develop guys. So I think really you kind of have to ride with what you have on your roster right now, but you have to get more creative with your lineups and your rotations. And like Wesley said, if that means you bench LaMarcus Aldridge a game, or you say you're coming off the bench because your effort is poor, then so be it. Millennials. Let
me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. The only assets
where we're at. It's like, well, get off my lawn.
Well, the only assets the Spurs have that might be tempting to some other teams out there are going to be the younger players in DeJounte. You know that you got him locked up already, so there's no way that they're going to get rid of him. But you have Derek White, you have Lonnie Walker. I mean, those are pieces that preferably you'd like to keep. You know, so you're stuck in this dilemma where do you get rid of your future to win now, or do you just ride out this mediocrity until, you know, some of these extravagant contracts near their end? You know, we still got Patty Mills, I think, for another year or two.
Yeah, so here's my thing. I would honestly say I think I would ride out with these guys, let the contracts run out. And if DeMar DeRozan keeps playing like he is and the season goes the way it's looking like it might, I would say I am of the opinion that he is going to opt into his contract, because he's not going to find better than $27 million from someone else in free agency, despite this free agency class being very weak now. So I don't know if there's really going to be anybody out there who's going to pay him $27 million or more. So I don't think he would take the chance and risk it. So I think he would opt into his contract for another year. So the Spurs would have him on the payroll for another year. But once he's gone, and once LaMarcus Aldridge is gone, your payroll frees up. As long as you keep your draft picks, you can still develop guys, and then you will have the money to go out and find someone. And I know that San Antonio is not a sexy destination, but if you have the chance to play for Popovich, if he is still coaching at that point, or if you have a chance to, if they have a roster there that's in place where you can say, okay, I can work with these young guys, we can mold these guys, we can be winners. You know, there was going to be someone who wants to take that chance on that team. And who knows, maybe there's even just a selfish player out there who says, well, Texas has no state income tax, so I'd like to go play there and make more money. But I don't know. I would say you kind of have to ride out unless unless someone is calling you and like begging you for DeMar DeRozan and one or two other guys for a player and a pick, maybe. I don't see that happening, but if someone is coming to you and saying, we will take Aldridge or DeRozan off your hands and you can get it at a fair price, I would say pull that trigger. And if that means you're essentially tanking the rest of the season, so be it. It would kind of be a nice little surprise for the Spurs to pick in the lottery. And frankly, it would give me more players to write about. I'd have more options to write about players for Project Spurs. So I wouldn't have to go digging. But I just think that the roster as it is, I don't think it was the people were signed or it was built with a lot of forethought with the way the game is going. Because if you knew 2 or 3 years ago when they signed Aldridge and then eventually when they traded for DeRozan, and I get they had to get rid of Kawhi, it was going to be an untenable situation. I get that. That was what you were going to get in return. His value was tanked. I get that. I'm not blaming that trade, anything like that. But if you could have looked into the future, if you could have been looking at the numbers and saying, okay, this is a league that is moving towards shooting way more threes and getting layups with nothing in between. There are very few mid-range shooters that we would want on a team. At least not, you don't want a mid-range shooter that can't also shoot a three. because there was a debate over the summer where with Kevin, he was saying, yeah, I love to take mid-range shots because, it's open and sometimes I can't get to the rim. It's like, okay, well, you also have a three-point shot, so people have to guard you. DeMar DeRozan, they don't have to guard him at the three-point line. So, it's a little bit different in that regard, but it's tough. The Spurs are in between a rock and a hard place, I think. And this season, we're going to find out. I think we're going to hear a lot of things at the end of the season about things that happened in season. I think there's going to be much more drama with this team than we are used to reading about and seeing.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Are the Spurs better or are they worse than last year's team?
Oh,
Worse.
Let me have it. There you go.
You done did it. Oh, you done did it. It's really, on paper, you should say better because it's the same team, but with DeJounte Murray, right? But they have not played that way. So it's really hard for me to say that they're a better team. Right now, they are a much worse team because they refuse to play defense.
Defense, yeah. I have to agree with you. From a defensive standpoint, they're worse than last year's team. But on the offensive end, they're able to score points at will. They're much improved on that end than they were last season. But go ahead, Steven.
Yeah, but offense doesn't win you championships. Look at the Phoenix Suns look at the Houston Rockets. Currently, they can shoot you out of the building, but they can't defend to save their lives. The Golden State Warriors had a perfect balance. They had good shooters. They had a very good defense. That's why they were reigning champs and basically dominated the past couple of years. It's because of that. But, to answer the question, I think they are a worse team because of their defense. We all said it already. Basically, they can't guard anybody right now. When you allow a total of over 100 points in the paint and combined in 2 games, that's pretty pathetic. That's bad. That's like G League level type bad.
Let me put it to you like this. The Spurs defense right now is so bad. They're softer than wet cake in the middle, dude. They're that bad, dude.
Oh god! I'm not a fan of tres leches cake. I don't like cake should not be wet in the middle.
Their tres leches has been out for a little bit, bro. Their tres leches has been out for a little bit.
No, let me tell you this though, dudes. I think it's also all of you are right on the money. They're worse, but it's also because the league is better too.
True.
Let's not forget that every team that's been struggling for a good bit, the Phoenixes of the world, even the Bulls, even a team like, Memphis doesn't have a great record, but you can see that they got some really good young talent.
Even the Mavericks.
And the Mavericks.
Yeah.
Those are all better teams at this moment. And even like a team like the Pelicans, even a team like the Hawks, who haven't quite put it together. And of course, part of the Pelicans is just because Zion's hurt and whatnot. But we're talking about a league that's just got better talent. And the Spurs are getting kind of in that mode where that maintain and try to build around it's not going to continue to rise.
I got a suggestion. You tell me what you all think. What if they sit LMA? They start Portal alongside Lyles. They take out trash-ass Beninelli, and they put in Damari Carroll, and then they, let Marco get the trash minutes that they were giving Damari. I think that would improve them defensively, as at least, but they might lose something on the offensive front. But it's a give and take. What do you think about that?
It's tough. I think if you instill some confidence in Trey Lyles and tell him, hey, man, you can shoot the ball more. You're a good shooter. We like you. Then I think you might be fine. He's not taking very many shots a game, but he's being efficient. Mm-hmm. And he's a solid enough defender, and he can give you enough on offense. And I think the threat of Pirtle and Murray or another guard as the pick and roll is huge because Pirtle is athletic enough. He can go up and go get that ball, bring it down, alley-oop, whatever, come down with it, get his layup, whatever it is.
He's got those young legs.
That's part of it, but he's a much better roller than Aldridge is, whether that's Aldridge refusing to roll or it's him wanting to shoot his mid-range shot. But he's a much better roller, and he's gonna help you on the screens on the other end of the court. And he's gonna be able to kind of sync those guys together, where they're not scrambling to shooters. Where there were a lot of times Memphis would use that screen on LaMarcus. He would either have to switch or He puts his hand out for a second, gets, and the guard can't get there. Somebody come out, that guard scrambles to another guy. They're moving the ball. They move the ball around the horn, and eventually a guy gets open for three.
Yeah.
So I think there would be a lot less of that if Pirtle is getting more minutes.
Hey, look, we have Frank Ramirez. Shout out to the people who are watching. Frank Ramirez, Tony Ornelas, Doris. What's up, Doris? And Michael De Leon's watching. Frank Ramirez says, my feeling is if Spurs don't make playoffs, Pop may just step down. I'm like, no, Pop isn't going to step down. Look, let's just put it to you guys like this. Everybody likes to blame somebody, and I saw a lot of Spurs fans going at Pop after tonight's loss. This is really what's happening with Coach Pop right now. Coach Pop is getting the Spurs ready for that transition. He knows that his time is coming, and so he wants to set up the team and pass on the knowledge and make sure that this team is going to be in good shape when and if he decides to retire. And hopefully when he does that, the person who will succeed him will hopefully be Becky Hammond. I think she's earned that right to be the next coach, So that's basically what Pop is doing right now. He's just trying to keep everything intact. He's trying to roll with what he has, and he's trying to work with the plethora of talent at his disposal. And let's face it, the Spurs are just not very good defensively. It doesn't matter what kind of combination you put out there. They're not gonna. They might be a little better, but they're not gonna be elite like they were in years past. So you have that dilemma. I mean, you're gonna give and take. You're gonna lose when you take certain players out, and you might gain a little on the defensive front. You might lose a little on the offensive front. But I mean, we're 10 games into the season, and we're seeing all sorts of problems. Hopefully, things will get rectified, and we'll start seeing them play a little bit better as far as the effort. I think that's what Coach Pop keeps on telling the reporters after the games. He's disappointed in the overall team effort. He wants to see more of an effort, like I was saying, heart, the ganas. He wants to see them go out there and play harder than they are right now. Right now, they just seem a little disinterested, and it's a team issue. Disinterested in playing defense, which is not the Spurs way. Defense is the staple that will help you, win the games, especially on the road. So hopefully that's something that they can fix. But go ahead.
Yeah, Joe. So you're right. I mean, one thing I've noticed, and you're completely spot on. That's exactly what Pop is doing. That's why Ben, when you said a trade needs to happen, or trade could help the team moving forward, I agree. It definitely could. But one, the Spurs don't really have what teams want, and if they do, which they do in DeJounte Murray, the Spurs are not going to give up DeJounte Murray. They're not going to give up Derek White. They're not going to give up Lonnie Walker. No. So this is a team we're going to go with for possibly the next couple of years until that LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan era comes to an end. I mean, let's just be honest. Let's just be point blank and say it. I don't think any of us are expecting a championship in the DeMar DeRozan LaMarcus era. I don't think any of us are expecting that.
I don't. I'm going to raise my hand, Steven. I don't.
Okay. Okay. So exactly. So nobody's expecting that. Good news. So, but the thing is, people who are expecting, the West is wide open. It kind of is. That's true. The West is definitely wide open this year. I mean, there's no guaranteed number one, the Golden State Warriors type team out there right now. But the Spurs are not going to be in those top two seats. They're not going to be there. They're not even going to be 4 or 5. If they make it, they're going to be 7 or 8 at this point, and based on how things look right now.
And they're probably going to get bounced on the first round too.
Exactly. So this is kind of reminding me. For those of you who don't know, I'm sure you guys do, but for those watching don't know, I used to cover the San Antonio Stars of the WNBA, and they went to the WNBA Finals in 2008 when Becky Hammond came here. After Becky retired, after a couple of their main players retired, they were in that rebuilding situation. So what happened was they kept going playoffs, knock out the first round, playoffs, knock out the first round. That was a trend that kept happening until they left San Antonio, unfortunately. So I think that's exactly what the Spurs are going through right now in that same situation. Just they're happy getting to the playoffs, keeping their streak alive, and then building also on the side here for that next transition. And so fans tonight booing DeMar DeRozan for missing a free throw, missing a layup.
That's poor taste, man.
Exactly. That's poor taste. I mean, I'm not the biggest DeMar fan out here. I'm not saying, DeMar's going to score 30 a game. No. But to boo your own player on Tony Parker retirement night,
It's unacceptable.
that struck a nerve with me. I get you're frustrated, but that just took it too far.
And DeMar's one of your most consistent players. Why boo him? It's not all his fault that the team lost. There's a lot of other factors. So that was a poor showing by the fans.
The biggest thing to me was he missed that layup because he got mauled at the rim.
Yep.
The refs missed a lot tonight.
Down the stretch they did.
They were bad.
Yeah.
They called the phantom foul, which was reversed because of the coach's challenge, which that is why we have the coach's challenge. I get that. But it would have been one of those things where that would have stuck out of principle.
And don't forget the 8-second call that was missed. That was very close.
Missed, and it was close. I don't know. It depends on when you consider them having possession, because if there were some people who said they had it at, I think, 25 seconds or they had it at 24, in which case definitely 8 seconds. There were some who said they didn't really have it until 22 seconds or 21 seconds, so it wouldn't have been an 8-second call. But yes, that is another case of officials. They're also getting caught up in the game. They're not paying attention to the little minute details that they are trained to watch. And then I thought the miss on the free throw, technical free throw, that was just icing on the cake for kind of how the night went. That was honestly, it could have been anybody at the line and people would have been upset. It doesn't matter. So that, to me, that was nothing. That was just, that's the way this game has gone and that's how it's going to end. But when Jaren Jackson stepped on the line, by the way, another guy who stepped on a line tonight. And DeJounte Murray did it once tonight too.
Yeah.
I thought this. I said to myself, okay, this is when the Spurs come down. They're going to hit some sort of shot, and we're going to have ourselves a real game here. And then they don't get any offense moving, and Derek White ends up taking a not great three with 6 seconds on the shot clock, and I'm just like, this is not the execution we have become accustomed to and that we are expecting.
It's bad spacing on the court is what it is. There's no movement to the offense. People aren't really moving without the ball. They're not getting in the correct positions that they need to be to give themselves the best possible opportunity to execute down the stretch. Everybody's just chunking up threes, shooting real early into the clock. I mean, there's still a lot of time at the 2-minute mark for you to start making a stand and start coming back. But you're not interested in playing defense. Then you have poor offensive execution down the stretch. It's a recipe for disaster.
Joe, let me tell you guys this. Let me ask you this. I mean, it's funny. Again, I go back to this Tony Parker retirement night because he's mentioning players that are out in the audience. He's mentioning Malika Rose. He's mentioning Tiago Splitter. You see a video of him and Rasho Nesterovic, who, by the way, got it one of the most awkward-looking big men of all time. But
he looked like a choir boy. He looked like a choir boy.
Yeah, it's like you saw him get the ball at the top of the key, and you're like, please don't shoot that, Rasho. But the one thing that those guys all did very well, they all set great screens.
Yeah.
And you know what's missing right now in the Spurs is they don't have guys that can seal an opponent to get somebody free in the lane to cause havoc. Right now, the ball moves around the outside of the perimeter. There's a switch that happens. There's nobody that can drive and get past that switch. Or you have guys like DeMar who are going around that switch, and then they get to the basket and lose the ball.
I beg to differ. I've seen some good pick and pop action going on between DeJounte and LaMarcus Aldridge. And when they do that, it has a high percentage of connecting, because they'll go and do this pick and pop where DeJounte will go ahead and suck in the defense. LaMarcus starts moving without the ball, and all of a sudden he's free. DeJounte will just pass him the ball real quick, and he gets in position, and he's open. He shoots an uncontested jump shot, and it's good for two. But it's in the flow of the offense, whatever the defense is giving you, and you're able to connect because he's in rhythm. I like that little play, but I don't think that they utilize it enough. There's not really screen and rolls a lot. There's not pick and rolls.
No.
There's not give and goes.
There's almost no rolling.
Yeah,
it's almost
there's nothing.
Exclusively pops.
Yeah, the little pick and pop action. That's exactly what it is between DeJounte and LMA from time to time. And what happens is that when they start going to that little pick and pop action, they'll be good for 2 to 3 jumpers in a row. And it kind of, they're on a 6-0 run, and then they get away from that, and everybody just stands around, and
Yep.
we see what happens, you know. So it's frustrating. It's going to be a long season. Let's just put it like that. There's 82 games, and we're only 10 games into the season, and we're already getting headaches and frustrated. People wanting to break
Yay.
things, calling for people to get traded, and they want, you know, everything to happen. You know, they want the Spurs to contend for a championship, but we all know that's not realistic. You know, they're going to probably be another team that's going to be 7 or 8 if they make the playoffs, and they'll probably get bounced first round again. You know, it is what it is. I mean, we see the team out there. We know what's going to happen, you know, at the end of the day. So it's going to be a long season, Spurs fans, but keep the faith. And don't boo your players. Come on now.
Yeah. Classless.
Yeah, so
Come
let's
on,
go ahead.
That's some Dallas stuff. We don't do that.
Yeah, we don't do that here. we let the bats take care of everybody, man. Come on.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
Now that Batman has retired.
yeah. So we're going to go ahead and start winding things down now. So before we end the show, Ben, where can they get a hold of you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at @the_Boomstein. You can find my work on Project Spurs. I also do some writing for Clutch Points. That's more college basketball stuff that I do there. And if you have not gotten into it yet, you really need to search the hashtag Dak Dances to Anything, because it's a
Yes.
treasure trove of
Yes.
beautiful GIFs and videos
Yes.
that I got stuck into a rabbit hole for about an hour or more, probably more. So, you know, if you haven't gotten to experience that for yourself yet, I strongly recommend that you do so.
Yeah. Okay, and Wesley, where can they get a hold of you on social media and interact with you, my friend?
I'm at Wesley Perk, and I've been a little bit bitter lately. I'm not going to lie, because you know, about the only thing that's been winning is my my Red Raider basketball team, and otherwise, you know, we're just it's Cowboys are a mess, and the Spurs are a mess, and you know, it's just looking like one of those years where, and of course, I'm not even going to talk Red Raider football because that's just not a thing. But you know, it's just one of those things where, you know, I love to talk about just sports in general, but I can't get off the snide of talking about some of these things that are just going on with these teams right now. So sorry if I'm a little bitter, but yeah, look me up. Let's have some conversations.
On a side note, man, Jonas couldn't be with us tonight because we started kind of late and he had some stuff he had to do for work. But next time we're all together here, we got to have Jonas break out this sword he got at the Renaissance Festival. He got a sword out there, man. And it's awesome. It's from Lord of the Rings, so it's right up there with your
What?
Game of Thrones stuff, Wesley.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
you
go.
gotta check it out, dude.
Yep.
You got to check that out.
Oh,
All
I
right.
didn't know Jonas was holding out on us like that.
Oh, dude. Yes, he's got himself a little collection, dude. So we got to get him on the show so he can show you that. But we're going to do that with the new Nerdcast that's coming out. And that's another thing. Make sure you keep an eye out because we're going to be rolling out a new Geekcast that we're going to be doing here. It's going to be called the Death Ray Podcast. And it's going to be all about pop culture and, you know, TVs, movies, all that kind of stuff. So definitely keep an eye out for that. So, Steven, where can the people get a hold of you on social media?
We'll get to that one second, but I want to address the Dak dancing thing. You know, as soon as I saw it yesterday, I was like, it's going to be a GIF, it's going to be a meme, it's going to be something. And lo and behold, 24 hours later, it's everything. And I love it. But you guys can find me on Twitter at the Stephen A _ on Twitter. That's Stephen with a PH _ on Twitter. And we're talking San Antonio Spurs, obviously, San Antonio FC, San Antonio Rampage, anything San Antonio sports. You guys can follow me there. And Joe, you are going to be doing a new pop culture show. So I am a massive TV guy, as you know. So I hope I can be on that as well.
Oh, yeah, you're going to be a part of that. Everybody is.
Get the band together.
Yeah, we're going to keep the band together. We're going to keep it rolling. But it's going to be fun to talk about things other than just sports. We can really geek out and have fun. And I'm telling you guys, man, Jonas has got to show you all the stuff that he's gotten over there at that Renaissance Festival. Everybody's going to be like, oh, my God, Jonas, you've been holding out on us.
If we do that pop culture show, we got to talk about Sean Spicer on Dancing with the Stars. What the hell is that?
Oh, my God, dude.
Hey,
I don't know what that
does
is.
Does he have a Gandalf hat too? Did he
Dude,
get that?
he might,
Hey.
dude.
Please, dear God, please.
Hey, when he goes to the Renaissance Festival, he doesn't mess around, bro. He goes up in full-on garb, like costume and everything, man. Like cosplay, dude. So Jonas is a badass, dude. You gotta check it out, dude.
Yep.
All right. So they can go ahead and get a hold of us, get a hold of me at Two Shots Podcast. And it's all spelled out, TWOSHOTS podcast, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. We need some subscribers. We need some followers all the time on all our social media avenues that we have out there. And also make sure you follow all the guys at Project Spurs, and including, Mr. Anderson's articles, and also Ben Bornstein. He has some stuff that he puts out there. And I think Vicky Vic too, she wrote something that was really interesting right before the Tony Parker retirement jersey night, got underway. So make sure you go and check that out. And also check out Project Spurs Network. So, you can see all the good stuff that they have rolling out there. Lots of good content. So for Wesley Perkins and Steven Anderson and Ben Bornstein, I'm Joe Garcia. Thank you for watching another episode of the Spurs Takeover. We appreciate the support. And like we always say, go Spurs go. We're out. Peace, people.